Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. Yesterday, Italians elected a new parliament. The first partial results show a victory for the centre-right coalition. Turnout was 64%, which is low compared to the previous election campaigns. Now, according to the Italian constitution, the newly elected parliament must convene within 20 days. The parliamentary elections were won by a centre-right coalition composed of three parties: the Brothers of Italy, the Northern League and Forza Italia. Giorgia Meloni is to be Prime Minister. She will be the first woman to hold this position in the history of Italy. It is important to understand that if we are called to lead our country, we will do it for everyone. We will do it for all Italians. We will unite the whole nation. We will emphasise what unites us, not what divides us.
Lo faremo per tutti gli italiani, lo faremo.
The partial election results show that the centre-right bloc obtained 43% of the votes. The second place was taken by the centre-left, which could count on the support of 26%. 15% was won by the Five Star Movement. Just yesterday night, Matteo Salvini, president of the Northern League, thanked voters for the votes cast. The centre-right has a clear advantage in both the Chamber of Deputies and the Senate. It's going to be a long night, but I want to thank you now. The centre-left Democratic Party, which has co-ruled Italy since 2019, is going into opposition. We will be a tough opposition, an uncompromising opposition. We are strong and able to oppose. We have done this before and we will do it again. Turnout in yesterday's election was 64%. This means that compared to 2018, it has decreased by 10 percentage points. Meloni has to prove that she can live up to the role, and she has to prove that she can represent all Italians, both those who vote for right-wing parties, but especially those who did not vote for the right-wing parties. If she succeeds, then she will be consecrated as a leader. Otherwise, she will be a disappointment. I don't follow her much, honestly, but I prefer the coalition that her party is part of. I don't like her, but she's what Italians need. Italians are stupid. It's a country of fools. I have strange ideas. The war, for example, mustn't be waged, but she won't do anything different, and she will continue to wage war because she said she is an Atlanticist. Italy must go down. The more it goes down, the better, so that the Italians wake up and can change something. I'm not happy, and I didn't vote for her, but this is what democracy is like. Giorgia Meloni based her campaign on such philosophical foundations as God, the fatherland and the family. Migration issues and the promise to cut taxes were also important elements. This is a conservative, traditionalist, pro-Atlantic party at the same time, and it doesn't have those softening elements when it comes to policy toward Putin. According to experts, the victory of the right in Italy may result in deepening cooperation on the Warsaw-Rome axis. I, for one, think that one of the first countries Giorgia Meloni will visit is Poland, and I hope I will be there. In the opinion of Law and Justice MEP Bogdan Johnsa, Europe is at a crisis from which only the rule of the right can lead us out. We can see that the great project called the European Union, which is currently in the hands of the Liberals and the European left, is bankrupting, while rapid economic recovery and energy reforms are needed. On the other hand, MEP Marek Balt believes that from the Polish perspective, the most important thing will be for the government in Rome to maintain the pro-Ukrainian regime. I would like to see Italy's new governing coalition support the sanctions process against Russia and cooperate with Poland when it comes to supplying arms to Ukraine. Last week, the public commented extensively on the words of the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, who clearly pointed to Brussels' preferred election result in Italy.
We'll see. Polski rząd nie chce zmieniać prawa w sposób, jaki zapisaliśmy w naszej umowie w kwestii przywrócenia niezależności sądownictwa. I dlatego nie możemy i nie wypłacimy żadnych pieniędzy. Zobaczymy, jaki będzie wynik wyborów we Włoszech. Jeśli sprawy pójdą w trudnym kierunku, mamy narzędzia, tak jak w przypadku Węgier i Polski.
Ursula von der Leyen's words are defended by the Prime Minister of France, who has announced that she will watch her Italian neighbours carefully, especially in the area of human rights. The President of the Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, said that we have certain values in Europe and, of course, we will be vigilant. These values regarding human rights and respect for others, namely the right of access to abortion, these rights should be respected by everyone. Jarosław Kaczynski does not agree with this rhetoric. The president of the Law and Justice Party emphasised that sovereign states should decide on internal politics on their own. Mrs von der Leyen is threatening the Italians, whatever it will be if they don't choose as she wants. It does not say in any treaty that it is the European Commission that determines who is to win the elections. Giorgia Meloni was first elected to the Chamber of Deputies at the age of 29. In 2008 to 2011, she held the office of Minister of Youth Affairs. The leader of the Brothers of Italy expresses conservative and anti-immigrant views. Giorgia Meloni is unequivocally in favour of transatlantic cooperation. She clearly supports Ukraine and denies that she will continue her support for Kiev. Day 215 of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Do not give in to criminal mobilization. Flee or surrender yourself to Ukrainian captivity. The more Russian citizens who try to protect their own lives, the sooner this criminal war by Russia will end. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky appealed on Sunday evening. Fierce fighting is taking place on many sections of the front, extending in total over 2,000 kilometres. The Ukrainian armed forces are successful in several directions in the Kharkiv, Donetsk and Kherson oblasts. Whatever happens this week in Russia, whatever steps this terrorist government in the Kremlin is planning, political or military, the task of our state, the task of Ukraine, cannot be changed. We'd fight for life and freedom for all Ukrainians. Criminal mobilization is used by Russia not only to prolong the suffering of people in Ukraine and further destabilize the world, but also to physically eliminate men living in territories temporarily controlled by the Russian Federation. The situation in the occupied Crimea is catastrophic. The information about the Crimean Tatars is fully confirmed. Most of the mobilization was directed there. This is another element of Russian genocidal policy, another reason for the immediate and harsh reaction of the whole world. This is a calculated imperial policy. It is a blow to the peoples of, for example, Dagestan and the entire Caucasus, to the indigenous peoples of Siberia and other territories. The occupation authorities announced a turnout in pseudo-referenda in the Ukrainian territories occupied by Russia regarding administrative affiliation to Russia. In the self-proclaimed so-called Luhansk and Donetsk republics, it was around 50%. In the Kherson Oblast, about 32%, and in the Zaporizhia Oblast, approximately 35%. The enemy is trying to hold an illegal referendum in the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine. In the villages of the Zaporizhia Oblast, representatives of the occupation authorities go from house to house with armed Russian soldiers, forcing inhabitants to vote. This tactic is also aimed at a census of men. In recent days, Russian troops have reduced the number of missile attacks on Ukraine, but have started striking with Iranian kamikaze drones more often. In this way, raids were carried out on villages in the Kharkiv, Mykolaiv and Odessa oblasts. Ukrainian armed forces shoot down drones using all available methods and are looking for the most effective ones. The enemy uses a new tactic. The missiles are probably held by the Russians for the winter period to destroy the city's infrastructure and, as they say, plunge Ukraine into darkness. Therefore, now they use much cheaper Iranian-guided drones, repainted and with Russian inscriptions. Our information shows that Russia has received several hundred such drones. Tonight, the vicinity of Odessa was again attacked by kamikaze drones. They hit military depots. The bottom line is that there were no dead. Due to the ammunition detonation, a large fire broke out, which was put out relatively quickly. The evacuation of the population was organized immediately. The military is now working on methods of defense against such drones. Today in Vienna, the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, reiterated his call for the creation of a safety zone around the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant in Enerhodar. If something happens there, it won't be a natural disaster. We will blame ourselves for our own inaction because we knew what to do and we have a plan to do it. Last week, I started consultations with Ukraine and the Russian Federation on the urgent establishment of a nuclear safety zone around the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. It is possible. It has to be done. And I am ready to continue these consultations in both countries this week. Rafael Grossi discussed nuclear safety at a meeting with the United States Deputy Secretary of State for Arms Control and International Security, Bonnie Jenkins. In addition to the Zaporizhia power plant, the Chernobyl power plant was at risk at the beginning of the invasion, and a week ago, a missile fell in the vicinity of another nuclear power plant in Pevdon-Donetsk. Experts are convinced that attacks on nuclear power plants are Himalayas of irresponsibility. Earlier today, outside the Bank of England in London, public opinion on the United Kingdom's economic future was mixed, as the British pound sank to an all-time low against the dollar before slightly recovering. Today, the volatility of sterling was at its highest since the fallout from the Brexit referendum in 2016, after the British government's fiscal plan alarmed investors and sent the pound to a record low against the dollar. Early today, the pound hit a record low of $1.03 in Asian trading before regaining some ground and stabilising at around $1.08, which is still well below where it was on Friday morning before the government unveiled its mini-budget. Finance Minister Kwasi Kwarteng, who unveiled the mini-budget on Friday, full of tax cuts and very few details on how the government would fund them, doubled down at the weekend on his pledge to cut taxes and shrugged off the impact of short-term market reactions.
Well, I don't know that much about its impact on the public finances, but what I do know is it's clearly just aimed at supporting Tory donors. I mean, it's robbing from the poorest in society and just giving the money to the richest. It's complete nonsense. And looking at the way the pound has been going today, it's going to end up in a complete catastrophe. I suspect the impact is going to be fairly disastrous. Imports are obviously going to go up in price. Exporting is going to be more difficult. Added to that, the effects of Brexit, which are coming down the line straight for us. And I think we're going to be in serious trouble over the next couple of years.
Well, I've been here 4 weeks, so the change in exchange rate is around about 5%. So I get 5% more. Enables me to buy another pint.
Jason Emery, a programme manager for an IT firm in the City of London, said he believed a recession would come, but was unsure on the long-term outlook.
I think it's obvious that there's some sort of recession coming, right, if it's not already here. We just have to work through it. I think arguably you have to keep spending to try and bring it back, but it's difficult to see. It depends on how long it lasts. I think if we can get through Christmas and Q1, it might be all right. Who knows?
This is the problem, right? You take a Labour government go down the spending route. Does that actually generate growth? Does that take us a recession? The Conservative route is always going to take you to tax cuts and use that so that the public has got more money to spend. I think the problem is what data is there to actually say whether one of those is going to be successful. I don't think there is, so it is a gamble either way. So, we'll just have to see whether... I certainly don't know what the answer is, and I suspect that economists will have different views on whether taking a tax-cutting route or taking a more Labour-type spending route is the route. But, it's a wait and see, I think. Yeah.
A spokesman for Prime Minister Liz Truss said earlier today that the British government does not comment on market moves and is sticking to its fiscal plan laid out last week. The so-called mini-budget is designed to snap the economy out of a period of double-digit inflation, driven by surging energy prices and a 15-year run of stagnant real wage growth. In total, the plans will require an extra £72 billion of government borrowing over the next 6 months alone. That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.